Thank you. It's so exciting to be here with you today and interviewing myself, which means we're not getting paid today, but that doesn't matter. So the idea is simple. We will be talking about the family office world, and I think too many people don't get it. Not that we get it that well, but I think we have some experience. And I will say from the dawn of time, mankind has been busy doing one thing and one thing only, and that's marketing. God convinced us to follow him. Adam marketed fruit to Eve, and you see it everywhere with animals everywhere. And this is what we're going to talk about today. How do you approach and present yourself right, the way I see it, to the family office space? And feel free to ask questions. I might read them in between. First of all, I want to very shortly mention why family offices. I mean, if you're here, you probably know the answer, but just to bring you up to date. So, family offices are currently have over $10 trillion in assets and another $65 trillion that will be transferred from the baby boomers to the next gen over the next 15 years. And that's according to my friend Ron Diamond of Stanford. This will be the largest transfer of wealth ever recorded. The family office market will soon be larger than the entire private equity and venture capital industries combined. Bloomberg adds, for you guys coming from the tech world, the world's ultra wealthy are increasingly investing in startups, both directly from their family offices and through venture capital funds. Total capital invested into venture deals hit $418 billion this year. As the end of August, it surpassed the record of $333 billion for the whole of 2020. That's according to a Bloomberg report. So if you'd like the sources, we'll be happy to send it to you. Today I'm actually not in Rye, New York. I'm in Israel. That's why I mix all the different weekends. Families are interesting, first of all, for several reasons. One, I see them as they are there forever. They're not a CIO at a pension fund that today is there, tomorrow is not there. You're meeting the actual family members. And if you nurture the relationship correctly, they are there for eternity. As long as you're there and doing your job well, transparency, good job, they are there. So that's one thing that's important to mention. Another point is that I think once you penetrate the family office market, which is not an easy thing to do, but once you do, they would go and tell their friends, which is not something I think I see with other kinds of investors. I don't see an institutional investor going to his friends saying, oh, we did this investment, it's so amazing. But they do. And actually, I did a panel about how to reach the family office space at a stem cell summit, which means I was the only person who didn't understand any topics that were running that were going on that day. And I brought an Israeli company called Puristem Pharmaceutical, and I brought one of their investors, and he mentioned how he first fell in love with the company, and we'll get back to this guy. But the point was that once he felt happy with them, he actually brought his friends, and then it just kind of grew and grew. And that's a publicly traded company. They can open doors. Some of them could be strategic partners. I have actually a fund that one of our families ended up investing there. And today, not only did they do a follow-up investment, they're sitting at the guy's wife's board. She has a different company, and that's how it grew. So that's the kind of things you can expect from family offices if it's done right. And even when you look at families versus non-families, even the people on their behalf, even when you're thinking about family office executives, I think there's no one as important as the family member. And why is that? Let's assume a family told their family office executive, we're doing healthcare, but you guys are doing 3D glasses, so they're not going to take your call. They shouldn't. But if you're sitting with the actual family member and you're saying, hey, I know you don't do this, right? But just put these 3D glasses on for 10 minutes and tell me what you think, because this is the future and that's what's going to happen. They may fall in love with what you do. And that's all you need, because then they will instruct the people on their behalf to check it out, to find somebody who understands that space and can do the right due diligence and get involved. They can invest in anything. any size of company, any sector for any period of time. They can basically do whatever they want, even if they haven't done so before. And I can tell you, I can give you another example. I had a family that does, they come from the water industry. And I was asking them, hey guys, do you do blockchain? And they were like, no, not really. We don't really believe in that. And I told them, well, you know what? There's another family that, just like you guys, they're not looking for capital, but they're doing an amazing job in blockchain. Now, it doesn't matter what you believe in or not, you do understand there are profits to be made, right? So even if you don't believe in that, would you want to talk to them? And he said yes. They ended up talking to one another, and the water company was fascinated and thrilled to work with a blockchain family. They didn't even ask for it. So that's that point. And trends, I think family offices have been there before anybody else in everything that's hot. By the time a trend is dying out, then the institutional investors find out about it. But when you look at cannabis, when you look at blockchain, when you look at opportunity zone, or now when you look at psychedelics, the people that are first to look at it and check it out are the families. They are the ones who would also look at you if you don't check all the boxes, that to even Mobileye. They told me themselves how they were running after VCs, and because they didn't check all the boxes, nobody would talk to them because they fell kind of in between cars and technology. People didn't get that. Those who invested, families that made a fortune because they would listen to the story. When you look at first-time funds, I had a fund that does agrotech. Now, what could be more, what could be tougher than selling a first-time fund in such a niche, sector as agrotech? But the guy's father founded one of the largest publicly traded agro companies. He loves it. He's got a reputation to keep. He's not going to mess it up for a quick buck. And they see the fire in his eyes. They understand this guy has been breathing agrotech since he was, I don't know what. They are betting on that horse because they know it is risky, but you know what? This guy is a go-getter, and you know what? We don't care if he's a Vertex or not. We care that he is going to get to places. So that's the family offices. So that's why, and I have more reasons, but I think you guys are here because you're interested to understand how to reach that space, why the family offices are probably the most interesting yet hardest to reach segment out there. Now, normally when I interview people, I have time to drink coffee because I ask a question and get an answer, but now I don't, so excuse me. Thank you. Now, some of those points I talked about before, I'll talk about it a little bit now, things that I think companies should learn when they are approaching family offices. And I think some of those points are important in different sectors, not just family offices. First of all, elevator pitch. Okay, let's start with that. I had a company in Miami at one of our conferences that came to me. They were pretty upset, saying that, half through our presentation, half of the people just got out and left. And I told them, well, you know what? You were lucky not all of them left because, by 7 minutes into your presentation, nobody understood what the hell is it you're doing. So that's an elevator pitch for an elevator that's stuck in a storm, maybe in a building somewhere I don't know. But that's not an elevator pitch. You need to let me know in 1 minute and who you are, what do you want from me, and why is it very important for me to keep on hearing you, because you are onto something. So and you know what, especially at the lecture we gave at the stem cell conference, because they're not even sexy, right? When you think about AI and cyber and blockchain, there's action. These guys are doing stem cells. So it's not, or whatever it is, they are very much used to talking, and I'll get to this point soon, to VCs, to professionals, and their presentations are very, very professional, too professional. You need to explain it in a way that people are excited about what you have to say, even if they don't get or understand your segment very, very thoroughly. Which brings me to my next point, exciting speaker. So that company from Miami was a good example. Many times I see companies that are bringing their founder to speak or the developer to speak. And when you look at that person and at his social capabilities, you wonder, how did he get married, if he's married? And many times you want to tell that person, you sit in your dungeon and you do your research, but do not communicate with human beings because you're kind of boring. Okay, or you read from a script and you don't communicate with people. So many times it's the business development person that will do a way better job at telling your story in an exciting way. And that's what it's all about. We are all in the world of telling a story in an interesting way, where we are all bombarded with information and emails and phone calls, and you need to get someone's attention. So not always it is the founder that has to speak, even though he thinks he's amazing. Many times I see founders that are certain they are the best thing that ever happened to Earth, and they speak slowly and they speak with heavy accents, and they dive into presentations that never end. So bear that in mind. Something interesting about the family office, I call it values and emotions for some reason, is the fact that families care about issues that others may not, right? Impact investing, making this world a better place. And many times I'm telling companies, you need to learn what, elements you have that you may not even think as important that you want to stress when you're talking to family offices. So for instance, remember that company, that family that invested in the publicly traded Pluristem pharmaceutical. So he said, hey, I first came to that company, I heard about them because I was looking for a cure for a disease my wife had. And then when I started to learn about how they work, I found out that every 10th employee is handicapped. And that was it for me. I fell in love with them. I loved what they do, and I wanted to support them. So many times you may have people on your board that are doing something significant: philanthropy, impact investing, disabled people, making the world a better place. Family offices really care about it. When you're looking at the institutional world, maybe excluding the Nordics that don't want you to pollute the ocean, that's great. Most people would invest where there's money to be made. And I think the family offices want more. They're saying, you know what, we already have wealth, we want to make some good money here, but not at every cost. We're not going to support groups that we think are hurting the planet or hurting people, and we are willing to do and invest more with those who are actually giving a little bit to others. So that's a point you want to mention. I don't see any other group of investors that would really care. I mean, I think maybe a VC would say, good for you, you're a nice guy. But now let's go back to what we were talking about. They would want to see if you check the boxes. Here, it's way broader. So that's another point. Now, don't oversell yourself is another point. Okay, many times some of you guys are so happy about yourselves being yourselves that you are forgetting that the family offices have seen it all. Okay, they've seen Hamilton before Miranda have. And many times you see very, how should I put this, arrogant entrepreneurs, mainly from technology, but not only, that would go there and they'll be like, if you want to talk to me, here's my card, and they go and they leave and they think that everybody is going to run after them. And I don't think this is something family offices appreciate. People that are, again, at that kind of level would not fall on their knees just because you're doing what you do. It's just one point that sometimes I see that's also important. And don't oversell yourself. Don't do a sales pitch. Okay, when all you do in your presentation is say, look how many employees I got, look at my office, we're so good, we're so amazing. Let them get to the point that they're thinking you're amazing just because you show them how well you understand the market, what an opportunity you got, how hard working you are. But don't go too far with all that marketing overkill. If you're looking at the Wall Street characters, with all their sales pitches, I think they're the worst to talk to family offices because they're like, come on, give me a break. So that's that point. Another point is self yourself right, in the sense that, again, when you do sell yourself, just like I mentioned before, take it from a perspective of how well you understand the market. If you're an asset manager, maybe bring your CIO that does, I don't know, real estate, to let people understand what he thinks is going to happen in real estate, why, how he analyzes the market, so that people would say, you know what, he's got a good point. You know what, I should definitely look at it. So what you need to show is how professional and how hard working you are. And I think families have like this fifth sense where they can really feel folks that are not real. And you know what, when you're looking at the ICO era in 2018, all those, you know, ridiculous blockchain companies that came to be, I think most of the family offices managed to stay away from that, because unlike the crowds, the people that were jumping on everything that's you know, that had blockchain on it, I think they get it. They look at the people in front of them and they're saying, are these guys real? Are they going to work hard? Are they trying to get my money here? And I think if you don't think you're a good opportunity, and you think you're, you know, probably a joke, and you know that you are by now, don't go after the family offices. Go to money shows. I'll get to that point in a second. Somebody mentioned that to me once, which actually is my next point. So my next point is don't suck, which is exactly what I said. If you know your product is crappy, they'll know about it. They'll figure it out. They'll do due diligence. They'll know how serious you are. Okay, so I had this company that came to one of my conferences, and he said he did a conference, and people didn't find him relevant because he didn't manage to convince them that he's onto something. And I said, you know what, I'm going to the money show in Vegas. Well, you know what, that's how it sounds like your product is right for the money show in Vegas. I don't know what's the money show, but just by the name of that thing, I assume unsophisticated people with 100K are going there, and maybe them you can fool. I get that you need a lower level of sophistication in order to sell your product. So if that's the case, don't go to the family offices. They will roast you, okay, in most cases. So that's another point. I see I have some questions here. I'll get to it in a second. So again, when you're thinking about junk bonds and all of that, you know, who they went after? They went after the old couples that don't know what the hell they're doing, not after the sophisticated folks that I think most of them would be very hard to reach, to convince, not to reach. Come prepared, okay? I've seen companies presenting, doing very expensive dinners, sitting down, and then suddenly somebody's like, what's your burn rate? What's your strategy to market? How are you going to do this and that? And they were mumbling like, oh yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that. And the second somebody finds a hole in your story, that's it. It just, other people start to ask more questions. Everybody start to see others asking more questions. You lose your confidence, and rightly so. And they are getting more and more into where you're weak because they found a spot that doesn't make sense and you didn't have a good answer. So they're like, wait a minute, we want to check this before we even go further. What's going on? You don't want to be there. You want to come prepared. And if you have a point that is not, you're not ready yet for, think about it before and have another answer. Say that this is the next step. Whatever it is, don't be caught with your pants down. And also valuation, by the way. Some companies think that they're worth crazy amounts of money. I had a company that was doing a dinner and they didn't raise a dime. And yet they came to me. The guy was before that one of Israel's top entrepreneurs. So it's not a small kid. And he said, Denny, I appreciate what you've done, even though we haven't raised a dime. And the reason was there was actually a queue that wanted to talk to him after his presentation. But when they came to the point of valuation, they were like, hell no. What are you talking about? And he figured out, too late, but at least he did at some point, that that didn't make sense. At that valuation, nobody's going to invest. So all I'm saying is you need to come ready, and companies should be reasonable with how they are approaching that space. Now, I want to surprise you because I want to talk about follow-ups, okay? And like, everything in life, you see, my strategy is very simple. Everything is marketing, and everybody is trying to be a sophisticated guy and say, hey, we are the no brand guys. Come on. What do you mean no brand? Everything is branding. Everything. When you met your wife, you were marketing yourself. You didn't know it. You know, if you didn't do a good marketing, that's why you're married to this specific. No, I'm kidding. But everything is marketing, and those that are telling me no brand and no need to, and you know, everybody can do everything because we're so equal. Look at the peacock. Okay, the guy is trying hard to show all of his feathers. That's nature right there and then. You need to look good. You need to be looking good, not necessarily physically, of course, but looking good as a story and doing a good marketing. Now, I want to, this is something that always made me laugh. You know, when I'm sometimes reading songs, right? So you all know I'm all out of love, right? It's not my cup of tea, but if I read you the lyrics, imagine that I would have said that to somebody I was dating after she was reevaluating our relationship, okay? I want to quote this song, okay? So it goes like this. I'm lying alone with my head on the phone, thinking of you till it hurts. I'm convincing her to come back to me, right? I'm all out of love. I'm so lost without you. I know you were right believing for so long. I'm all out of love. What am I without you? I can't be too late to say that I was wrong. Oh, what are you thinking of? What are you thinking of? What are you thinking of? You know what she's thinking of? If she should call the police right now or just get away from you somehow because you just pressured the hell out of her. Which brings me to the point of do not be, when you're marketing to a family office, you're somehow dating somebody, okay? And you're trying not to scare them away, and yet you're trying not to not follow up. So you need to be somewhere in between, okay? So I've seen companies that are saying, yeah, we send them, I introduced somebody to a family, and then the next thing I saw, I was like, oh my God. He came back and he said, hey, Denny, thanks for the intro, nice to meet you. Here is my presentation, here's my... loads of attachments. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? Did they ask for your presentation right now? Do you think they wanted 16 pages of PPT on their desktop? What is going on? I mean, what's going on? I mean, wait, take it step by step. Make them want to ask for your presentation. Good that you didn't send them the contract and the wire transfer number. And on the other hand, you see some folks that don't follow up enough. You know, they're like, oh yeah, we sent an email that didn't come back to us. Oh, they didn't come back to you. So what if they didn't come back to you? Maybe they have more things on their mind. Maybe you want to follow up. So what I'm saying is, okay, you don't want to sing to somebody that you're nothing without them. If you want to get them back, it might stress them a little, but you do need to sing something, okay? I hope that was the point, what I just made. I'm not sure, but it sounded good when I wrote it. Don't jump the gun, okay? And that's the same, it goes back to marketing and everything around it. Don't jump the gun. It takes patience to work with families. And I want to say two things here, because I hear this from different people around the world that don't understand family offices. First of all, you know, if you go to one conference and you're meeting families and you expect them to throw money at you the next hour, well, it could be, some of them do, but you don't really get it. It takes time. It takes patience to develop a relationship. And here, it's not other people's money like anybody else. This is their money, and they want to trust you. You know, I once asked a family office in England, why don't I see enough platforms where families can just do business online? He said, because I want to look him in the eye when I'm working with him. So maybe next gens would change that, could be, but that's an important point. So you need patience with families. I had another point here regarding the patience with families. It takes, yeah, so you don't want to push things too much, and you need to, you know, take your time and see how it goes. And understand it's a long-term strategy, okay? It's if you're thinking it's a quick thing, don't do it. And another point is that people don't understand, you know, many times I speak to funds and they're telling me, we're not raising money right now. So what? You don't want to actually go after the money when you need it. you want to go after the money when you don't. Okay, it sounds weird, but then you're not stressed. You're not stressing them. You have time to develop the relationship. And when you need the money, everything is all set. You're not under pressure, and it takes time to develop the relationship. I had one fund that told me, I'm not raising right now, but I'm not going after them only when I'm raising. And I was like, finally. Okay, because I hear it all the time. Yeah. So, and also the tools when you're looking at how to reach family offices, there's no, you cannot put an advertisement on a billboard. You cannot advertise at a fancy magazine. It doesn't work that way. So how do you reach family offices? So that's basically what we and other groups do, because we bring them there. I think, by the way, that investment conferences will only get you so far, because who's going to go to the investment conferences? Many times they'll send somebody on their behalf. What we do is we talk about things that keep them up at night. You know what keeps them up at night? Preservation of wealth, marrying wealth, divorcing wealth, that your kid is in depression. How do you deal with your next gen? Then, when you're getting the interest from the families that come to hear this, you can also talk about that. So that's why I think it's a completely different world. And the tools are different, okay? So when you do a private dinner, for instance, everybody are coming just for you. It's your day, evening, great. It's intimate, it's small, and they're yours. When you do an online session, like what I usually do, same thing. People register just for you, and you know what? It's even more interesting because there's no keynote speaker, there's no nice venue, there's only you on a screen. No geographical boundaries. People registered just for you. We do an hour discussion, great. But the other side of it is that obviously you don't meet them in person, and at a conference, I think one of the interesting points is that you enjoy the aggregate effort of everybody, of the sponsors, of the keynotes. And if we make sure you speak before a keynote or you just work the room, even if people thought you're not interesting, they might say, you know what? They heard you because you were just before the lecture they actually came for, but it doesn't matter, because they might say, you know what? It is interesting. So there are many methods with pros and cons that are kind of synergetic, and each brings something different to the table. That's another point. Another point is be transparent. I have a family that mentioned to me, we invested with this real estate group, and we were not really, we cannot blame them, COVID and this and that. The ROI wasn't amazing, but they were very transparent. We got all the information we needed. We know where things are. And they recommended others to join, even though, again, they did not knock them off their feet in that specific year. But that doesn't matter, because they found they had, people that are real, people that are honest, people that are there for the long run, and they got the time. So being transparent with your clients once you have them, I think is very important. So these are just a couple of the points I wanted to mention here. I see some questions here before I go to my next topic. Are we going to talk about how your organization engages with companies, or is this only a one-on-one marketing session? We have multiple opportunities looking for capital. I'll get to that as well. By the way, I also don't believe in the one-on-one meetings many times that you see it at other conferences, and maybe here I'll get to that point when I explain how do you due diligence our space. So you know what? I'll get to it in a second. How do you due diligence the family office world? The biggest problem in our space is that most players are, if you're lucky, crappy, and if you're not lucky, fraud. I think it's that bad. I think there are very few groups in our space that actually know what they're doing, or deliver, or actually are family office groups. And many others, when they say family office, they mean families that might have an office, which are many people that have a family and have an office. And how do you due diligence when you go to that space? And I see, especially with VCs and groups that are not the Wells Fargos or the EY, because they know how to due diligence, but those that come from the outside, the venture capital, technology, all of these guys, when they see somebody that's running the world's biggest family office conference, they're like, oh, let's go there. And the first thing I'm saying to these guys, do you know a family that would want to go to the world's biggest family office conference? What does that even mean? Families want privacy. Families want intimate. What does that mean? Big is not a good thing when it comes to the family office space, by the way. And I see some groups that are saying one-on-one meetings. That's like the wet dream of every company out there. But what they don't know is that many times I had a very famous family office, I will not mention the name, that told me, you know what, I was asked by this group to go to this conference. They're paying my fare. We're going to a resort in Laguna Beach. They're paying my fare. They're paying this, they're paying that, and they're stuck. They want me to sit. The only thing they ask me is sit with those two families, do me a favor. So she's two sponsors, sorry. And it was a biotech company. And the person told me about it. We do real estate. They know we do real estate. We have nothing to do with biotech. But they sat there because they had to. And then the company goes back all amazed. We sat with 10 families. So what? I believe that families, if you want, and maybe in some places it does work, but I think in general, if you want to reach families, you have to excite them. You have to make them to, lend an ear and listen to what you have to say. And if they're interested, they're going to talk to you. So that's how I see that that space. Couple of suggestions for you when you're checking groups in the space. Who sponsors? Are these groups Are these EY? Are these major banks? Or are these just third tier companies you never heard of? When you find the right platform, when do you speak to them? Are you speaking at 3 o'clock when nobody's there, or are you speaking at prime time? So that's another point you want to look at. What are the topics? Many times people are trying to get you money, but the conference actually speaks about impact investing, and you're busy polluting the ocean. I hope you're not, but you might be. You need to understand that you're speaking in the right context. I'm not a crazy fan of one-on-one meetings. I'm even less so of parties. I see a lot of sponsors that are so happy because they got to sponsor the yacht party. Now, I want to ask you a question. Do you think anybody cares when they go drinking on a yacht who the hell sponsored the yacht party? Who cares? They're drinking. I don't think they know that you sponsored the yacht party, even during the yacht party. I'm not talking about the next day. So I just think, when I do a conference at a legal firm, right? You cannot think of a more boring place than a legal firm. I think I just lost a lot of clients right here, right now. But when people go there, I think they go there because they care about the presenters, not because they're getting free drinks and whales riding. Okay, so I'm just saying. There are some groups that will tell you, we do directory listings. This is amazing. There are groups that are actually convincing you that by being on their website, a conference group or whatever group, that's how you reach families. Usually I mumble when I'm hear this and then I hang up. But, how can you think that that's how families would choose a CPA? They would go and, let's go and see who are the recommended vendors. I wonder why they're recommended. Is it because they paid them? Yeah, maybe, but so what? You know what? You deserve it. You don't want to talk to families who sell. I try to be very sensitive about the fact, if you're a family member, but you got a fund, you're a salesperson. Just because you're wealthy, does that mean that now you're suddenly a buy side that should come for free and meet the sponsors? Because then if you go and meet these guys, you'll end up, in a situation where you're being sold to. So due diligence groups that you see out there, speak to the sponsors. Don't ask to be introduced, just speak to the sponsors yourself, call them and ask them how it was. And people just don't do that. Check the sell side, buy side ratio. Again, that brings me to my other point. You want to go to a place where not everyone who's got a pulse and $200 can get in. So these are the points that I wanted to mention today. And obviously there are way more, but I just spoke for 40 minutes without even drinking. So I'll look at some of the questions you have here, and there's more to talk to, and we'll do that again. So one question I see here from Richard is, how can we get the family's attention offering an intangible human-focused service, non-financial product? We do have documented ROI. So I think the way to get the family's attention is by showing that you know what you're talking about. So pick a topic that you think they care about, that touches their world, that rocks their world, that keeps them up at night, and write something about it. Do a post on LinkedIn about it, speak about it, and come from a perspective of if this is not a fund and you're offering a service, tell them what you're doing. Don't sell yourself. They will come if they think you are professional and you know what you're talking about, and they would think, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. We should talk to him. Write articles wherever you can, and that's what I can say about that. What's the best way to reach family offices, especially those that like their privacy? So yeah, it's a tough question. When people ask me how I ended up doing what I do, I tell them I have no idea, but I regret every day that passed that I took that decision. No, I'm kidding. Of course, I enjoy what I do, but I picked the toughest audience on earth to go after. And it's right that it's hard to get their attention. They've seen it all. They are private, like you say. So again, if you have people on your board that are major names, let them do the talking. Let them write articles. Let them be on LinkedIn. And I really do think that beyond conferences, there aren't too many circles. I mean, there are some groups that are clubs, kind of a thing. So I will not mention names, but there's one group that's all around the place that's very good. But I think they let anybody with a certain wealth get in, and it doesn't matter if you're sell side or not. I think in the long run, it's not a wise thing on their behalf, but if you're selling, it is a good thing for you, because you may join such a group and then just become their friend, just like you would do going to a country club. So there aren't too many places where you can meet the families. You're correct. So that's why we ended up doing what we do, because we knew, once I was trying, when I started in Israel, we started our business in Israel, we were thinking, let's go into the cinema world and sell advertisements there and try to work with some cinemas. I love film and all of that. And I ended up understanding that, wait a minute, there are so many ways to get to these guys. They can watch TV, they can read billboards, they can read magazines, and they can go to the cinemas. But when you think about family offices, where do you go? So it's hard to get to that world, but once you're there, you got it. And I will say, I see somebody's asking a little bit about ourselves. I will finish with that. For those of you that already know us, I don't want to bore you. Another question. What are some of the biggest red flags that families look out for when evaluating fund managers? That's a great question. I think they're looking to see if you're lazy and you're just running after the money. I think they want to see professionalism rather than arrogance. I can tell you a great story. There's nothing that I personally, and maybe I should see a psychologist about it, hate more than when somebody doesn't respond to you, okay? You can tell somebody to get the hell out of your way. It's not interesting. Or you can tell somebody it is interesting, but you cannot ignore somebody, okay? That means that you don't even give them the time of day to even reply, which is, come on. And many times companies would get it as a boomerang, okay? You once employed somebody, you acted like you have, and that guy ended up being the son of a very important investor of yours that you didn't know. And if you would have seen, I had some calls with some families that would tell me, I would never, ever touch this company again. Not because, if my kid is not talented, it's a different story, but the way they acted, that arrogance, that, I don't want to deal with those people. So I think they want to see people that are modest, okay, that actually know what they're talking about. I think they like people that are in your face rather than 2-3-piece suited and politically correct. I think they actually appreciate that young cyber tech guy that just tells them the story as is. I think they're looking for, again, as I said before, to see if you got the right plan, you know what you're talking about, you have a strategy, you have a good management, they can look you in the eye, they know you're a go-getter and you're going to get to places, rather than being a huge group that just wants their money and you're one of millions, okay? And that's, by the way, how co-investing happened in the world. What is co-investing? Co-investing means, you know what, KKR, they take a fee whether we lose money or we make money. They don't care. They take the fee anyway, which is fine, but I'm just saying. But if I do real estate and the other family does cyber, and each can take each other to different deals, we're in the same boat. So you want to be in the same boat as they are. And when you see stories of VCs that are putting their own capital as well, or are real, I think that's what they're looking for. So again, as I said before, they would see a nice CEO in 2018 of young folks that are just going to run with their money. I don't think they're going to get that money to begin with. Okay, I have more questions here. I want to talk to you about something I'm worried about. Guys, feel free to talk to me. I will send you my information. My family has a family office, but I also have a fund. We are raising, not too much of a problem for us right now, but 2 family offices and now a big consultant are asking us to sign a BDS pledge. Of course, we won't sign, but this is a big potential problem. Okay, so this is a specific problem that we can discuss later on. And I have here another question, which I'll get to in a second, which is, my fund is small. That's a good start. Many funds are small when they go to the family office space, but I brought this up to an asset manager with $20 billion in AUM, who answered, I'm even more concerned that asset managers are signing the UNPRI pledge, which right now doesn't have a BDS. Oh, it's the same question. So again, I will answer those questions specifically when we speak, because I don't think it interests everybody here. And for those of you who wanted a couple of questions, a couple of words about us, I started doing what I do by actually being a journalist. I was covering Wall Street for an Israeli magazine called Globes, which is like the Wall Street Journal. At some point, we did financial conferences. We still do, like Israel's largest institutional investment conference and corporate finance and stuff like that. And then we learned about the world of family offices. And it's so complex. And I saw families that have everything, but their son is doing drugs somewhere under a bridge. I've seen families that don't talk to one another. I've seen the difference between new money and old money. That a family that just had a liquidity event tells me, half of my friends left me because they hate me now. Half of my other friends are too friendly. All the asset managers in the world are running after me. We didn't know where to go and what to do. And when you look at old money, they have different issues that bother them, but different experiences. So we thought it was about time to do something. So 11 years ago, together with 2 very known families, we built the first ever conference in Israel. Then we grew to the world. Today we're in New York, Miami, Houston, Dallas, Chicago, Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, London, Tel Aviv, and the UAE soon. And we've developed all these communities. So our main events cover everything that might be on their radar, right? So anything from investments in tech and oil and gas and real estate and cannabis, all the way to estate planning and next generation and philanthropy and arts. And you wouldn't believe the topics we've had. I had families where the wife came to speak on stage and the husband, and they talked about marrying into wealth because she was wealthy and he wasn't. And what does that mean? I had a family that is one, and I think that's the beauty about those meetings that you get, and that you don't get at investment conferences. And that's what people don't understand, how close you get to the families when you're really dealing with things they care about. And I had just not long ago, and I will not mention where a founder of one of the biggest brands out there was sharing with us that at the age of 26, he was thrown from home. He was an alcoholic sitting in the streets of wherever it was, thinking about suicide every single day. And when we asked him how he ended up there, he mentioned sexual abuse. And when you see a family getting that open, you understand how things are important and how they want to affect. And that's, by the way, why many of those who built themselves from nothing and dealt with amazing challenges now are fighting to help others to deal with the same things, or appreciate companies that have emotion that will get back to you even if you're not a real client, because they care about, they respect people, and that's, I think, something that some companies forget about. Another question, launching my first $100 million real estate fund for Texas value add multifamily. What can I do to provide the best certainty for the families? Show what you've done, right? Even if you don't have a track record at a fund, and everybody has to start somewhere. Show what you've done, or show them that you're a guy that gets an opportunity that others are missing, or that you have connections that others don't, that allows you to take a chance, that would convince them to take a chance with you, even though you don't have a track record. And they get it. And they understand that working with you would cost them less than working with you in 10 years when you're very successful and you're going to charge the hell out of them. So they get it. It's just like investing in early stage companies. It's risky, but if you're convinced, you're going to get it at a better discount and get in. Show how professional you are. That's the main point. Is reaching out to family office CIOs, decision makers on LinkedIn effective? I think that LinkedIn is one of the best things out there. I have 24,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is very nice. Not compared to David Sable that spoke at my conference, who was the chairman of I have a blackout now. And he has almost 1 million, but it's a great tool. I think you need to, again, they're getting bombarded by people. So if you're going to be like, sometimes I see, and this is ridiculous, I really sometimes am blown out by what's going on in people's minds. People send me messages on LinkedIn, which is not even a medium that's made for long messages. First of all, nothing is a medium for long messages. Nobody has time to read a long email, right? And let alone on LinkedIn. It's a tiny little box. And sometimes you're getting this long email. Who's going to read it? Whomever is going to read it doesn't have money. Because if he had money, he wouldn't be reading it. He doesn't have time for you. You need, again, in one sentence, tell me who you are, what do you want from me, and why do you think I should listen to you? And be modest, be nice, and you might get some people that actually are going to respond on LinkedIn. Not many, but some. I think it's a great tool. Do your post right. Do your profile page on LinkedIn nice. Sometimes you see somebody with a picture like myself, since he was 25, or a boring page, or what I see sometimes, those that are putting on LinkedIn like 3 lines of titles. Are you out of your mind? The minute I see somebody with 3 lines of titles, I'm like, these guys are weird. Also, some people put too much information there. She, he, all these politically correct stuff. People don't have time, and they don't really care if you're a she or a he right now. If you want their attention, just write a short title, what you do, and get to the point. Don't, that's what I have to say. Another question here, elevator pitch. We help family offices articulate a clear vision that tells everyone, including the next generation, precisely how much of what we want to do in the future. Then we help decision makers learn how to tap the family office potential, family members and non-families to realize their vision. We have over 40 years of experience. Great. That's not a question. That's a statement, which is great for you. I think I answered most of the questions here. Obviously, there's way more to talk about when it comes to family offices, and I will have in my future sessions the families themselves. So you would actually have a chance to speak with different families on what are the things that turn them down and what are the things they like. And I think that's something you want to hear. Different perspectives of different families on how they want to be approached. So I'll keep you updated on that. I'd like to wish everybody a great weekend. Thank you all for being here today. And I hope you had a great time. So I'm Denny Chared, and finally I'm going to drink. I didn't take that into consideration that when you do the talking with no one to interview, you don't get to drink. Thank you, everybody. I hope it was fun and you learned a couple of the things that we've learned throughout the years. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.